She arrived at her ex-wedding with a newborn. The story opens with a sharp contrast between the grandeur of Cathedral of St. Helena and the vulnerability of a mother cradling a sleeping newborn. The immediate tension is established by Michael's perfect ceremony, designed to erase his complicated past and cement his new life with Sophia, only to have the carefully constructed image shattered by the arrival of a 4-week-old baby he abandoned before birth. The cathedral doors open at the precise moment the officiant asks if anyone objects, and Kate Reynolds steps into the afternoon light, backlit like a reckoning, carrying undeniable proof that some chapters cannot be closed by simply walking away. Michael White is the self-made corporate attorney, who believes he can rewrite his own history by choosing ambition over accountability, while Kate Reynolds is the discarded first love, who has transformed into a woman of quiet steel, no longer the accommodating teacher who absorbed his excuses, but a mother who will not let her son be erased from his father's narrative. The intro reveals the backstory. 6 months ago, when Kate told Michael she was pregnant, he chose Sophia Langford, the colleague who represented partnership track and power couple status, over the woman carrying his child. Now, on what should be Michael's triumphant day, Kate arrives not with tears or pleas, but with Noah, a tiny, breathing consequence Michael can no longer deny. The Cathedral of St. Helena was perfect. Every detail had been curated by Sophia's wedding planner, white roses cascading from Gothic arches, afternoon light filtering through stained glass, 300 guests in their finest attire. Michael White stood at the altar in his custom Italian suit, watching his bride approach to Pachelbel's cannon, and felt certain he'd finally outrun his past. The officiant's voice echoed through the vaulted ceiling. If anyone here has reason why these two should not be joined in holy matrimony, speak now or forever hold your peace. The ceremonial pause. Michael's chest expanded with relief. Then the heavy cathedral doors opened. The sound cut through the silence like a blade, not the creak of hinges, but the soft, unmistakable whimper of a newborn. Every head turned. Michael's did too, instinctively, and his entire body went cold. Kate Reynolds stood backlit in the doorway, wearing an elegant black dress that somehow suggested both mourning and victory. In her arms, wrapped in white blankets, was a baby. 4 weeks old, if Michael had to guess. Which meant. His mind scrambled for math that would make this someone else's problem. Kate walked down the aisle with unhurried grace, her dark hair swept up, her eyes locked on Michael's frozen face. She didn't look angry. She looked certain. Behind her, smartphone cameras rose like a constellation of tiny suns. She stopped 3 rows from the altar. Noah, Michael would learn his name later, made another soft sound, and Kate adjusted the blanket with practiced ease before speaking. He has your eyes, Michael. Her voice carried perfectly in the acoustic space. I thought you should know before you made more promises you won't keep. The cathedral erupted in gasps and whispers. Sophia's bouquet trembled. Michael's mouth opened, closed, then managed, Kate. I didn't know. Kate's expression didn't change. You didn't ask. She turned and walked back down the aisle, leaving Michael standing at an altar that suddenly felt like a witness stand. The wedding didn't so much end as implode. Guests scattered like startled birds, their phones already uploading to social media. The string quartet packed up without being asked. Michael's best man quietly disappeared into the vestibule. Sophia stood frozen in her Vera Wang gown, her professionally applied makeup beginning to crack around her eyes. What the hell was that, Michael? I didn't, Michael couldn't finish a sentence. His mind was still reeling, still trying to calculate timelines and consequences. You didn't what? Know you had a child? Or know she'd have the audacity to show up here? Sophia's voice climbed an octave. Which part were you planning to tell me, exactly? But Michael was already moving, his feet carrying him after Kate before his brain could authorize the decision. He found her in the cathedral courtyard, standing beneath an oak tree that had probably witnessed a century of broken promises. She was swaying gently, soothing the baby, his baby, apparently, with a competence that spoke of weeks of practice. Kate, please. Let me explain. She turned. This close, he could see the exhaustion shadowing her eyes, the way her dress hung loose on a frame that had clearly lost weight recently. He could also see Noah's face properly for the first time. Dark hair. Sharp features. Michael's own nose in miniature. His name is Noah, Kate said quietly. New beginning after the flood. Seemed appropriate. If I'd known. You would have what, Michael? Been there? She shifted the baby higher on her shoulder and produced her phone with her free hand. I sent you 11 text messages from the delivery room. Want to see them? They're all still marked, read. From her small clutch purse, she pulled out a hospital bracelet, a birth certificate dated 4 weeks prior, and a timeline that destroyed every excuse he was assembling. Behind them, the cathedral door opened. Sophia stood there, her wedding dress still immaculate, her left hand conspicuously bare. 3 days later, Michael stood outside Kate's apartment, the modest one-bedroom they'd toured together when planning their own future, back when he was a third-year associate and she was finishing her teaching credential. He remembered helping her paint the kitchen yellow. That felt like a different lifetime. He knocked. No answer. He knocked again. It's open, Kate's voice called from inside. He entered to find her on the couch, Noah nursing beneath a draped blanket, her laptop balanced on the armrest showing what looked like lesson plans. She didn't look up. This is insane, Kate. Michael heard his own voice rise. You can't just, you trapped me. You knew I'd moved on. Now she looked up. Her expression was so calm it unnerved him. Trapped you. With 11 unanswered messages. I didn't see them. You read them. Your phone confirms it. She adjusted Noah without breaking eye contact. But let's say you somehow missed them all. You also missed my calls. My emails. The certified letter sent to your office. Which part of that is me hiding something? Michael's anger deflated into something more desperate. Okay. Okay. I messed up. But we can fix this. I'll write you a check. Whatever you need to keep things quiet. Sophia and I. Sophia left you. Kate's voice was almost gentle. She posted about it yesterday. Very tasteful statement about incompatible values. Michael fumbled for his phone, found the post, felt the ground shift beneath him again. Kate nodded, suddenly embarrassed. It was probably nothing. First-time mom paranoia. It's never nothing when you're scared. He smiled. Would you mind if I took a quick look? Just to give you peace of mind. 2 hours later, Daniel was still there, having patiently examined Noah, explained normal infant temperature ranges, answered 17 panicked questions, and somehow made Kate feel like a competent parent instead of a disaster waiting to happen. You're doing great, he said as he left. Trust yourself. Kate watched him go, thinking about the difference between men who talk and men who stay. Michael hired a crisis management firm before he hired a family attorney. Image first, substance later, that's how you salvaged a reputation. They advised him to reclaim the narrative by demonstrating involved fatherhood. Which is how he ended up at Kate's door with a professional photographer and a script about redemption. Kate answered in sweatpants, spit up on her shoulder, Noah mid-cry in her arms. She stared at Michael's entourage, publicist, photographer, family attorney, and said simply, no. Kate, be reasonable. This is good for everyone. Shows I'm committed. You don't know how to hold him. That's not. What's his pediatrician's name? She waited. What formula does he drink? When did he last sleep through the night? What's the trick to getting him to take a bottle? Michael's silence was answer enough. Commitment isn't performed, Michael. It's lived. She closed the door. That same week, Daniel showed up at support group with grocery bags. I was shopping anyway, he said, though Kate suspected that was a lie. Thought you might need, he paused, consulting a list on his phone. Diapers, the purple diaper cream you mentioned, those fancy nursing pads, and, he pulled out ice cream. Exhaustion relief. Kate felt something crack in her chest. You didn't have to. I know. He unpacked her fridge while she nursed Noah. But showing up is kind of my thing. The next Tuesday, he held Noah during the entire support group meeting so Kate could actually talk without juggling 20 pounds of squirming infant. He asked about her day. He remembered small details, that Noah was teething, that Kate's online students were reading Macbeth, that she'd been too tired to shower that morning and felt embarrassed about it. Survival is beautiful, Daniel said simply. Don't apologize for it. Michael performed fatherhood for cameras. Daniel lived it in grocery aisles and hospital waiting rooms. Kate noticed the difference. The envelope arrived certified mail on a Tuesday morning, delivered by a postal worker who looked apologetic. Kate recognized the law firm's letterhead before she opened it, Whitmore, Patterson and Associates, the same firm that had represented Sophia's father in his divorce. Expensive. Aggressive. Michael was demanding 50-50 custody. The petition painted Kate as vindictive, claiming she'd deliberately concealed the pregnancy to manipulate the defendant and was now denying a father his fundamental rights. It requested emergency joint custody, retroactive child support credits for intentional alienation, and a gag order preventing either party from discussing the case publicly. Kate read it twice, hands shaking, while Noah gummed a teething ring in his bouncer. Then she called Gloria Martinez. Gloria had been a guest speaker at Support Group, a family attorney who volunteered her time educating new mothers about custody law. She was fierce, unimpressed by expensive suits, and had a reputation for destroying unprepared fathers on cross-examination. They're counting on you being intimidated, Gloria said after reviewing the petition. We'll need documentation. Every missed payment, every cancelled visit, every text message he ignored. Kate had kept everything. That evening, Daniel found her at the kitchen table, surrounded by printed evidence, crying quietly while Noah slept. He's doing this for his reputation, she whispered. He doesn't want Noah. He wants the story. Then we tell the truth. Daniel sat beside her, his presence steady. I'll testify. Whatever you need. I can't ask you to. You're not asking. I'm offering. He took her hand. Kate, I was already in the moment I watched you advocate for Noah at 2 a.m. with that fever. That's what family looks like. Not biology. Not paperwork. Just showing up. Kate squeezed his fingers and thought about the difference between men who claim and men who choose. Judge Patricia Whitmore had silver hair, reading glasses on a beaded chain, and the weary expression of someone who'd heard every lie family court had to offer. She reviewed the case files with methodical precision while both legal teams waited. Michael sat at the plaintiff's table in his most expensive suit, flanked by 3 attorneys. His character witnesses, colleagues from Morrison and Associates, filled the front row like a corporate jury. Kate sat across the aisle with Gloria and Daniel. Noah slept in a carrier at her feet. Mr. White. Judge Whitmore looked over her glasses. You're petitioning for 50-50 custody. Walk me through your involvement in your son's life thus far. Michael straightened, confident. Your Honor, I've been denied access. That's not what I asked. I asked about your involvement. Let's start simple. When is Noah's birthday? Michael blinked. Reached for his phone. Without the phone, counselor. June. He looked at his attorney, who couldn't help him. Noah was born April 17, Kate said quietly. Judge Whitmore made a note. What formula does your son drink? Your Honor, this is. What formula, Mr. White? Silence. Does he have any allergies? What's his bedtime routine? Who's his pediatrician? The questions came like surgical strikes. According to these records, you visited your son exactly 3 times in 6 months. Is that accurate? I was, my work schedule. Were you working when Ms. Reynolds went into labor? She attempted to contact you 11 times. You responded 0 times. Michael's attorney tried to object, but Judge Whitmore raised a hand. Counselor, I've been on this bench for 19 years. I know the difference between a parent who's struggling and a parent who's strategizing. She looked at Michael with something close to pity. Why do you want custody now? A child needs his father. The courtroom went silent. Judge Whitmore's voice dropped 20 degrees. Where was that need for the first 6 months? Chapter 8, The Testimony. Daniel took the stand wearing a simple suit, his hospital ID still clipped to his belt from the morning shift. He was sworn in, stated his name and occupation, and waited. Gloria approached with gentle precision. Dr. Pierce, how do you know the respondent, Ms. Reynolds? We met at a support group for new parents. I volunteer there. And you've developed a relationship with both Ms. Reynolds and her son? Yes, ma'am. Kate and I have been dating for 4 months. Noah, he paused, his voice softening. Noah's been in my life since he was 6 weeks old. Can you describe your level of involvement with Noah's care? Daniel didn't hesitate. I helped Kate install his car seat correctly, the first one was angled wrong. I sat through a 3-hour emergency room visit when he had an ear infection at 3 months. I've changed diapers, given bottles, walked him at 2 a.m. when he wouldn't sleep. I read parenting books at Kate's kitchen table while she showered because she hadn't had 10 minutes to herself in days. Gloria nodded. And how often do you see Noah? Daily, when I'm not on call. I'm there for bedtime routines, pediatrician appointments, the small stuff that matters. Michael's attorney rose for cross-examination, sensing an opportunity. Dr. Pierce, you're not Noah's biological father, correct? Correct. So really, you're just the boyfriend. No legal standing. No real claim to this child. Daniel met his eyes without flinching. I'm the man who shows up. Every day. Not because a court told me to or because it helps my image. I show up because they're my family. Kate watched Michael's face from across the courtroom. She saw the exact moment he understood, he wasn't fighting for his son. He was fighting for a storyline. And he'd already lost. Judge Whitmore dismissed Daniel with a nod that suggested she'd seen everything she needed to see. Judge Whitmore awarded primary custody to Kate with a swiftness that suggested the decision had been obvious from the start. Michael received supervised visitation every other Saturday, contingent on completing court-mandated parenting classes and maintaining consistent attendance. He'd missed 2 visits in the first month. On the courthouse steps, Michael made one final appeal. Kate, please. We could start over. Be a real family. Kate stood beside Daniel, Noah, now 10 months old, reaching for Daniel's finger with determined baby focus. She looked at Michael, this man she'd once loved enough to plan a life with, and felt nothing but distance. We already are a family, Michael. You just never bothered to be part of it. They walked away. Michael stood alone on the steps, watching them load Noah into the car seat Daniel had installed, watching them drive toward a future he'd forfeited. 12 months after the cathedral disruption, Kate married Daniel in an intimate garden ceremony. 20 guests. String quartet playing music they'd chosen together. Noah, now taking his first wobbly steps, toddled down the aisle as the world's most uncoordinated flower baby, veering off course twice before reaching Daniel's open arms. Daniel's vows were simple. Kate, I promise to show up. Every day. In the big moments and the small ones. Then he knelt down to Noah's level. And Noah, I promise to be the father you deserve. Every single day. Not because I have to, but because loving you both is the easiest thing I've ever done. In the back row, technically uninvited but there for his scheduled visitation afterward, Michael watched through the garden gates. He saw the life he could have built if he'd chosen differently. Saw the son he'd claimed too late. Saw the woman who'd offered him grace he hadn't earned. Kate caught his gaze once, briefly, before turning back to Daniel. She'd built the life she always wanted. Just with the right man this time.